All right, today we're going to talk about severe storms. So we're talking Chapter 20, Section 3. We're going to talk about the type. So the first type is a thunderstorm. So not as severe as some of you may think. It's a storm that generates lightning and thunder. It will also frequently produce gusty winds, heavy rain, and hail. Thunderstorms develop when you have very warm, humid air that rises in an unstable environment. So as a cold air or as cold front pushes in, that warm air pushes up and then it kind of circles back on itself, as you can see in the image below. There are 3 stages of development, and you have an image of this in your earth science textbook. You have the cumulus stage, you have the mature stage, and you have the dissipating stage. So cumulus stage is the stage where it's building up. It's just starting out. The mature stage is where everything kind of starts to happen. You've got heavy rainfall. You might have some hail in here. And then dissipating stage is where it's kind of going away. So you'll have very, very light rain at this point. Thunderstorms are very common. There's estimated that there's 2,000 happening at any given moment in time. So say right now, there's 2,000 thunderstorms happening all over the world. The greatest number of these are going to occur in the tropics, so where you have really warm air all the time. And anything that you can see in the picture that's highlighted in blue, those are going to be where the tropics are, that you have those thunderstorms. Thunderstorms are caused by warmth, very high moisture, and instability. So here's an image of a thunderstorm. Tornadoes is the second type of severe storm. These are windstorms that take the form of a rotating column of air. So it starts out as a windstorm. It comes along with thunderstorms, and it creates what we call a vortex. That's that rotating column. You can see that clearly in both pictures here. And like I just mentioned, they develop with thunderstorms. And these have to be severe thunderstorms, so very bad thunderstorms. And that vortex starts to spiral downward from a cumulonimbus cloud. So keep in mind the type of cloud that these form from. We talked about clouds in Chapter 20. Chapter 20. Mesocyclone, this is what you have to have if you're going to have a tornado occur, evolve and develop. It's a vertical cylinder of rotating air, and it's going to develop in the updraft of a thunderstorm. So you have this spinning type of air, and as the thunderstorm forms, it's going to kind of start this spinning in a vertical direction. And as you can see in the image here, it's a vertical spiral until it hits the top, and then it's got this portion of cloud that overshoots, and that's what we call the anvil or the head. Intensity of a tornado is hard to determine. You can't exactly just step into a tornado and get the measurement of how quickly the winds are moving. So there's not a direct way to measure that, but we do have what's called the Fujita scale, and it's based on the damage that the tornado produces. So looking at the scale, you can see we have F0 all the way to F5. So that's the F, and that's the intensity of it. The F0, that's when you have winds that are 73 miles per hour or less. So you're going to have very light damage. Maybe branches come off of trees. Maybe very small trees get pushed over and uprooted. Then you have the other extreme, the F5s, 261 to 318 miles per hour. That's really fast wind. So you get incredible damage from this. You have automobiles flying through the air. Houses will be completely leveled and swept away. You'll have trees that actually will have their bark completely removed from them. So that's very, very severe damage on that scale. So safety, couple of things. We don't really have a lot of tornadoes in this area, but we have had a couple in the past. Tornadoes usually occur in the spring, so April to June. Think back probably 4 years ago, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. We actually had a tornado warning. We had tornadoes touch down in Rabun County, Georgia. We actually had tornadoes spotted here in Macon County. So tornado watches, this is when there's a possibility of a tornado that's going to happen based on the storm system that's evolving. Or there's the tornado warning, and this is where someone has actually seen a tornado, or they actually see a tornado on the radar. All right, moving on to the third type, hurricanes. So these are whirling tropical cyclones. So it's a cyclone similar to a tornado, but these form over open water. Okay, so it needs that moisture. It needs all of that water that it can pull from the oceans to form. And winds on these are at least 119 kilometers per hour. So these develop often in the very late summer. The temperatures in the water are very warm. It's warm enough to provide both heat and moisture to the air for hurricanes to form. Hurricanes also have what's known as the eye. It's the very center of the hurricane, and it's actually this zone that can be about 20 kilometers in diameter that's very calm and peaceful. It's almost like the storm has passed you by, but you've only stepped into this eye portion. Okay, and once you hit that eye portion, like I said, it gets very calm. It seems like it's over, but then that other side of the eye hits you and you go through the rest of the hurricane. So taking a look at this cross section, you can see the eye portion here in the middle. Okay, this whole section right here, that is your calm section. Everything else are these winds that are rotating. So you have an inflow, okay, that's moving in one direction. And as things are moved upward and downward, depending on where you're at in the hurricane, it flows in an opposite direction as it outflows from the top. Intensity for a hurricane, we have what's called the Saffir-Simpson scale. And we have also storm surges with hurricanes. So when we have storm surges, you have a rise of the sea level along the shore as a result of very strong winds. So you can see in the image clearly that's ocean waves breaking in, and these people are clearly not standing in the ocean, right? So the ocean level has risen so far as much as to come inland. So the Saffir-Simpson scale, we have category 1, 2, 3, and 4. So minimal damage to extreme damage. It talks about the winds that you have with it, and it talks about the storm surge that you have with it. So that helps to classify categories for hurricanes. So occurrence. These form between about 5 degrees north and 20 degrees south of the equator. The North Pacific has the greatest number of storms in a year, about 20. So there's more in the Pacific area than there is in the Atlantic area. And if you take a look at this is an image of Hurricane Joaquin from NOAA. It's NOAA. That's a great website source for you guys to look at for weather. Another thing that we have, a typhoon, is kind of the same thing as a hurricane. It's a tropical cyclone. It's just another name for it. And this one rapidly rotates. So it's just a little bit different than a hurricane, but not by much. And that's all for today.